Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. And boy, did somebody hurt Pimax's feelings at some point, because they came back with a vengeance this year around. I cannot wait to talk to you guys about all the really cool things coming out of the Pimax house this year and within the next couple of months. Pre-orders that are available, new equipment available for stuff that already exists, a very awesome very awesome new versions of the Pimax headset. There is so much information to cover from yesterday's live stream that I want to share with you guys. I'm going to try to make this a relatively short video giving you guys the basic information, so stick around. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below.
Overkill simulations, watch us as we fly.
All right, so first let's talk about a quick highlight before we get into everything and the things that we're going to be covering. First off, we're going to be talking about a new feature or a new add-on that's capable of interacting with the Pimax Crystal. And that is the Airlink device. Now, people might say, well, why would we need an Airlink device given the fact that the Crystal is already a PC-ready VR headset? Well, remember the Crystal is two-sided. It has PC VR as well as a standalone option. So hold out for more on that. We also have two new versions of Pimax headsets coming out. You have the Pimax Crystal Super and the Pimax Crystal Lite, both of them with their own features and own development mentality around them that are going to bring a lot of option to both PC and standalone VR users. There is a lot of information that we're going to try to cover today, guys, and I'm going to try to keep it down to the short and simple. However, if at any point you're like, it is time, make sure you guys click my link down below. It will take you to the Pimax website, and you guys can pre-order any of this stuff right now. Now, yesterday, the pre-orders were so intense that the Pimax website was actually bogging down. You couldn't actually get to the site. I had a friend of mine who was trying to pre-order all day yesterday and wasn't able to do it until first thing this morning. So if that gives you any idea on some of the awesome features that are coming, stick around. Now, last thing that I do want to touch on real quickly, because I'm sure it's going to come out. I am a Pimax fanboy. I say in every Pimax video that I do. Why am I a Pimax fanboy? I'm a Pimax fanboy for any reason that you always become a fanboy of anything. I have purchased and owned every single release that Pimax has released since they came to the market. The Crystal was actually the first version of headset that was ever provided to me by Pimax themselves. Everything else came out of my own pocket. And even with some of I've called out all of their pros and cons. Some of their cons being that they tend to release products a little too early. They tend to release products before it's actually available for purchase, meaning that stock tends to be an issue, stock and supply. I've called all those things out, and I still have stayed with Pimax for the entire time because I love the features and the things that they bring. Even with their older versions, they used to have a bunch of issues trying to get it set up and working. There was a lot of customization, a lot of tweaking and settings and things that you had to fight with to get it to where you want it. But once you did, mwah. Anyways, let's get into the video and get started with the good stuff, because I'm really genuinely excited about the stuff that's coming. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the Airlink that is coming. Okay, now this is going to be for $299 if you were to purchase it as an add-on for the Crystal. If you bought the Crystal today, there's also going to be a Crystal package that will include it for, again, a little bit higher price than just the Crystal by itself. For existing Crystal owners, if you already own the Crystal, you will get a $50 discount if you choose to purchase the Airlink. Now let's talk about what the Airlink does and how it is different from anything else that is currently on the market. And this is why I said I am a Pimax fanboy, because I find them to be more innovative and they tend to think farther outside the box than anybody else. Yes, sometimes it takes things a while for things to get ironed out, but they really do seem to dominate. And let's talk about why. So we already know that there are things like the Quest Link that exists, and a version of, I believe Airlink exists with the Quest, if I remember. I have the Quest 2. I don't have the 3 yet. I'm working on that. Let's talk about some of the differences there. So some of the differences there would be, I've used the Quest 2 with the link cable, and it's slow. It's just not fast enough to keep up, right? Even going through the USB cable, it wasn't fast enough. I didn't enjoy the experience. And so I never even thought about any kind of a link system again. What Pimax is doing here is they're capitalizing on PC VR with immersion without being tethered. So I really liked in the stream yesterday, one of the things they pointed out with this particular object was the cable. You know, if you wanted to set up, like for me, for example, right behind me, guys, I have 2 double doors that open up and it goes right into my living room. My PC is about 5 feet away from me, right? I would need an incredibly long cable if I wanted to go out there and play. Because again, the Pimax Crystal has standalone capability, but there are so many games that just aren't fun in the standalone version, right? You need that the advantage of the Crystal A with the high fidelity and high visuals, and then just games that are not available, for example, on the Quest 2, but are available on PC, right? If you go through Steam or whatever it may be. Well, but then you're bound to the cable or some sort of Airlink that doesn't ever, or you know, not this one, but some other Airlink that doesn't work quite as well. Or you have, like I said, the cable, which at some point you're going to get wrapped up in, you're going to get tripped over, it's going to yank on you, or you're going to walk too far, and you guys can see where I'm going with this. I don't want to go on tangent with that part. Let's get into the details here. So why is this different? Well, this is a dongle. So you've got the base station that you guys are seeing here on the screen on the left. All right, so that's going to plug directly into the PC. And then you've got the dongle that actually plugs into the VR headset itself underneath its power port, right underneath the mask, I believe. And it's got its own clipping system, so it mounts and things like that. Now, what this essentially does is it's going to work just like anything else. It creates a wireless connection, but instead of going through your Wi-Fi, even if you're using the latest Wi-Fi 6E, you're still not going to get, I think you're limited at what, 6 gigs, if I remember correctly, as the transfer rate. This thing creates a wireless connection, but it is a direct network connection with the headset and goes to 60 gigahertz. And that's just the start. First off, 60 gigahertz is more than fast enough of a data transfer where we shouldn't see really any issue whatsoever. Now, it's not to say it can't happen, but that was huge. That's a massive difference and faster than any Wi-Fi that currently exists in the consumer market right now. So let's talk about what its advantages are. So first off, the base station connects through the HDMI or, DisplayPort, if I remember correctly. The base station goes directly to the video card. Okay, so just like as if you were hardwired into your video card, the base station plugs into the video card. So it's getting the information not from the CPU but from the GPU. Okay, so that's the first part. That's a big piece. So think of it as an extension of the monitor. Then wirelessly on a 60 gigahertz connection connects to the dongle. Now, here's the cool part. There's zero compression on any kind of Wi-Fi link, any kind of Wi-Fi transfer. You're gonna, especially when you're talking about high graphics, high data, fast simulations, things like that, you're gonna have compression. And compression equals image loss, okay? Your quality loss. No ands, if, or buts. I don't care what anybody says. That is the nature of how that works. Any kind of compression. So, for example, I work in IT, primarily dealing with digital faxing solutions. And so think of it as a fax. You can take the most gorgeous picture, and that's all a fax is. A fax is a picture, guys. Any fax, even when you're reading it, it's technically a picture. It is a picture format. When I take that picture and it looks nice and pretty and I put it on the copying machine, right, and I scan it into my computer, it was compressed, image loss. Then when it gets converted over to an image that can be transmitted, image loss again because it's compressed yet again. Same principle that we see in the Wi-Fi, right? To give you guys, I'm just trying to give you guys some understanding of why there is always loss anytime any kind of compression is done. Okay, you're always going to have degradation in quality. May not always be the most noticeable, but it is there. So the fact that they are stating zero compression is huge. That means whatever you would see plugged directly into your VR on your computer is exactly what you're going to see using this Airlink. Minimal, if any, latency, and I like the way they put that. They didn't try to go no latency, right? It can always happen. There's always certain devices, certain things, EM interference, things like that, that can cause certain latencies, right? That's just the nature of Wi-Fi no matter what. But again, at 60 gigahertz, I'll be surprised if you notice it. Okay, completely wireless experience while PC gaming, like we just talked about. So all of your favorite PC VR games, you're going to be able to play wirelessly, completely detached from the PC. Okay, here's another big one. It will support the full Pimax resolution. So that's going to be 2880 by 2880 per eye at 90 hertz. That's really cool for you. If you guys aren't following along with this, this is amazing. This I would dare call this groundbreaking. And again, yes, I'm a Pimax fanboy. Don't say it. Oh, he's just boating them up. Yeah, I am. This is cool. Now, here's one of the things that I guess I could see where the limitation is. The dongle, it sounds like, has a battery life of 2 to 3 hours. Which really isn't bad, especially when you, and actually, when you think about it, I'm willing to bet the whole headset has 2 or 3 hours, because that means it has to power the dongle as well. So that part was a little confusing. So that means, I would guess that that would mean that the entire headset has a playtime of 2 to 3 hours. And that would kind of make sense because now it has to power the dongle as well. And wirelessly at full resolution, I could see where that's going to chew up some game time. But anyway, so that's probably my only downside to this, 2 to 3 hours. I mean, you could burn that pretty quick. But at the same token, if you're playing completely wirelessly, and especially if you're in a stand-up game of some sort or simulator, like, that's a pretty long time to play. So I'm actually, now that I backpedal that, that's probably not too crazy. Now, let's talk about the pricing one more time. Current Crystal owners get a discount, $50 US. So you guys would pay, let's call it $250. I'm going to round everything up. New purchases, which by the way, you can pre-order this thing right now. It is going to be shipping Q3 of 2024 for $299 US. It's called $300. Okay. And then there will be a package if you are a new someone who is about to buy the Crystal, for example, and you want to purchase the Airlink. I believe there's a package with it included as well that you guys can check out. Again, all of these things are available for pre-order right now, you guys, on the Pimax website. Link down in the description below, okay? So, that is the Pimax 60 gigahertz Airlink. This is one of the bigger things that I'm excited for. I'm excited for all of it. I'm very, we're going to get into the Super and the Crystal, or the Crystal Light right now. But this one was a big one for me because it gives some really, really good options, to Crystal owners. Because my biggest complaint about the Crystal as is in the standalone version was I'm not crazy about the games that are available in the Pimax store. I'm just not. There, I said it. Sorry to my Pimax rep. I'm sure you saw this, but I'm not. So having this now, you're going to be able to play whatever we want. If you can play it on PC, you'll be able to play it in standalone version on the Crystal. Even if you're just flight simming, if we're over in the cockpit and you just don't want to have that stupid cord pulling on you, this is an option for 2 to 3 hours of gameplay. That's pretty smooth. All right, let's get on to the next thing. All right, so now let's start talking about the Crystal Super, because this is quite impressive here. The Crystal Super, they really took everything they learned from the Crystal and made it super. I am blown away. Now, guys, I want to start out before I get into this, because, again, going back to that whole fanboy thing, I absolutely recognize all of the faults that existed with the Crystal, and I called most of them out, especially when I first got it and I first started using it, and a lot of the software updates that needed to be optimized and things. And they've already shaped the Crystal up. There's a couple things that are in beta that I haven't shared with you guys yet, and I want to wait for them to be released, that are really impressive. And then when I saw everything that is supposed to be coming with the Super, I'm shattered. One of the things that I'm going to give to Pimax right now, that I'm going to say up front with the development of the Super, is they took what they heard from us about the Crystal and they listened. So here we go. So first, let's talk about the changes and the things that were existent with the original Crystal to the Super that they heard. So first off, the battery pack. Not everybody wanted to use a standalone version of the Crystal. Matter of fact, from most of my community, you guys at least, we all were on the same boat. We didn't need the battery pack. We didn't want to use it standalone. We wanted to use it for PC VR. So the battery pack became a real pain in the butt. Being almost a year now that I've been using the Crystal, there have been quite a few occasions, especially in DCS, where I've had to change out the battery. Now, with Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's not so bad because you can just simply control tab and it takes you out of VR. With DCS, it's a real pain because if you turn the VR headset off, 99% of the time, you couldn't get it back, the new battery in time before DCS crash. So that in itself is awesome. So the Crystal Super, PC VR only, no battery pack. The other thing that they took upon themselves was it's completely powered through the display port. So there's no USB necessary. So it's using one cable, just the display port cable. And where that comes in cool again is, you know, again, you're freeing up resources on the computer now through USB as well. The comfort strap. This one, as you guys can see here on the center image there, it comes with a comfort back strap. Okay, so where before you still had the center strap, but the way that this one is designed, it looks like it further supports the top of the headset and comes down a little bit further. So you're going to have that a bit better than what we saw before with the Crystal. With the Crystal, it was still very hard to keep it from dropping down on your nose. So that's a score. And then finally, the next big thing is that I really like is because it is specific to PC VR is the integrated processor designed specifically around PC integration. So now it's no longer worrying about a dual mode operation. Simply, it's one processor that is dedicated to the integration with PC. So we're going to see enhanced performance. Now, I want you to remember that we are going to be seeing enhanced performance with the Crystal Super and why that's critical, because everything else about the Super exceeds that of the Crystal. So first off, let's talk about PPD, pixels per degree. Okay, so for every degree of field of view, you have, with the default lenses, 50 PPD, 50 pixels per degree. All right. The human eye on average sees at 60. So we're coming close to human clarity. Now with a separate lens option, you can get that into 57 PPD. Now that's going to have a smaller sweet spot with those, or view box as it's called. But still, you know, absolutely fantastic clarity at that point. Now me personally, I'm looking forward to just the default lenses, and we're going to talk about why. I am stoked with the default lenses. Default lenses, we're also getting a 130 degree field of view, as the default lenses are 30% larger than that of the Crystal. Why is that another big thing? That's also, if the lenses themselves are 30% larger, that means you have a 30% larger sweet spot. Okay, so that high fidelity, clear spot that we like to look through is going to be even larger. On top of that, like I said, we're getting 130 degrees field of view. The wide field of view lenses that I'm currently using in the Crystal that do have some binocular overlap and a little bit of distortion on the edges if you're looking for it, are only 110 degrees field of view. Okay, so the default lenses are giving us a wider sweet spot, 30% larger view lighting, and 130 degrees field of view. Okay, that is huge, you guys. That is awesome. We are now back to the Pimax 8KX status there. Actually, I think it's a little bit larger if I remember correctly. Well, maybe not. I think the 8KX boasted 140. And it's also important to remember that when we talk about field of view, we're talking about diagonally, corner to corner. Okay, it's not left to right 130 degrees. It's corner to corner, same way you'd measure a television or a monitor. Okay, that is a very huge improvement. All right, so now we're going to genuinely get that peripheral vision, and this is where the wide field of view is such a big deal for anyone who has never used a wide field of view headset. Here's why it's a big deal. If you are into flight simulation or racing simulation or any kind of high speed simulation, your mind gets your sense of motion through your peripheral view, not through the front. Okay, yes, in the front you can see the road and the lines moving, things like that. But you get your sense of speed from your peripheral, how fast things are going past the sides of your head. Okay, and so that's going to be a huge deal for flight and racing simulation, especially at low altitude. The other thing is, of course, things like flying in formation, driving, you know, if you, again, back to that racing sim, like think of like NASCAR, something like that, being able to actually see that there's a car on the side of you, it really makes a big difference. A wide field of view is huge, guys. I was so sad when the Crystal came out and had such a smaller field of view in comparison to the 8KX, because everything else about the Crystal was better than the 8KX. We still have the inside-out tracking, but here's what is also in development. You also have, just like they had the interchangeable faceplates for if you wanted base station tracking instead of inside-out tracking, which is still an option, by the way. You can still have the base tracking faceplate if that's where you want to go. But what they've done is they've also added mixed reality. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what mixed reality is, I would say the Quest 3 is probably the biggest one being used for this right now. And what that does is it gives you the ability to use the pass-through cameras in full color and full definition to see your outside environment, like the cockpit, all of your controls, all of your dials, your buttons, your physical hardware that you have for your flight simming. And what it allows you to do, there are certain softwares, there's actually quite a few in development right now, actually, that I'll be sharing with you eventually. That you can actually create sort of like a perimeter of, I want everything in this line, basically it would be your cockpit, to be seen through the pass-through cameras, and then everything outside of that is going to be your sim world, okay, your 3D world. And it's hot. Like there are some, especially if you're someone who actually builds a dedicated cockpit, who has cool framework and everything like that, you can literally outline that frame to where it is always visible through the cameras. And so you can always see your controls, but everything else you'll look at will be the sky, the world, whatever inside your simulator. So they have a mixed reality faceplate that is in development. They actually apparently put it back into development. It was nearing its final stages of development, and they decided, you know what, no, we can do better. And so they put it right back on the drawing table. It is smaller. The Crystal Crystal Super is smaller than the Crystal, lighter than the Crystal. And again, we talked about all the other stuff, the field of view, the sweet spot, no ghosting or glare because of the lenses. The other thing they did is they designed the lens caps in a way where it reduces dust fallout, so it makes it a lot harder for dust to get between the lenses and the screen. Audio, I'm not really worried about the integrated audio, the microphone, things like that. The microphone, I'm kind of curious. It would be nice to see some sort of good quality microphone in a VR headset for someone like me who's a content creator. I'm sure everyone else would love to take advantage of that as well, but it's certainly a big deal for me. But we'll see. Hertz, here we go again, anywhere from 70 to 120. And that's what we're going to talk about the lenses for a second. You have two different lens options. One of them is a little bit more expensive if memory serves. And honestly, I'm not as impressed with the second option. So the first option, you have the QLED displays that are 29.5 million pixels, 3840 by 3840 per eye. So 4K, basically, not quite, but close enough, at 120 hertz. Okay, remember, higher refresh rate is a smoother image that you're going to see. Okay, just like when 144 hertz gaming monitors were first hitting the table and they were such the big rage, and still are for that matter. It was such a big difference going from 60 hertz on a 1080p monitor up to 144 hertz. The gameplay was so much smoother, especially if you had a graphics card that could really take advantage of that, and things like G.Sync and things like that came along. So this is the same kind of principle in VR. You know, you want that higher refresh rate, in my personal opinion. Now, 90 hertz is still nothing to cry about. You know, 90 hertz is what we're always trying to hit in VR. And that's where we get to the micro OLED, but we'll get to there in just a second. So the other thing about the QLED displays is they also still have the LED backlight, but I think there's like a little over 900 local dimming fields. Now, if I understand this correctly, this is where my understanding may not be quite on par, so bear with me. But if I understand it correctly, you're still going to get where the LEDs for your blacks will actually turn off. So blacks will be black because there is no color there. There isn't any kind of lighting there. But what you get is my understanding, again, I'm going to keep prefacing that, is from the surrounding LEDs that are illuminated, especially in older headsets, you would get the fallout, okay? The lighting that would fall out into those dead zones and thus create sort of more of a gray look than a black. Now, I'm already super excited because the higher resolution, the more pixels. The more pixels, the more pixels that can go dark. The more pixels that go dark, the truer the black becomes. I'm already very happy with the Crystal as it is in its coloring. There was a massive difference between it and any other headset that I had used previously, and not just Pimax. So I'm really excited for just the QLED displays. I think they're going to hit everything that, at least for me, right on the mark, and right where I want it to be. Now, the micro OLED displays, you are true 4K per eye, but only at 90 hertz refresh rate. But again, like I was just saying, because you have so many more pixels, that will also go completely, they'll turn off to create the blacks. And you have so many more pixels at such a finer resolution, the blacks are going to look even blacker. Okay, you're going to get really dark. Okay. And so that is the advantage. The micro OLED, I think, are going to create a definitely a better color experience. But for me, the QLED displays, and knowing what I know about the Crystal that I'm currently using, I'm perfectly content with it. I already think night flying is amazing in the Crystal as it is right now. So the QLED at 3840 resolution, up from, by the way, if you guys didn't hear me earlier, the Crystal as it is now is 2880 per eye. So we're going up almost a full 1,000 pixels per eye, and per dimension, right? So that's huge. It's going to be a massive increase, you guys. Now, let's talk about one more thing here. All right, so even being the fanboy I am, I'm going to tell you right now that the price of the Crystal is steep. Cannot deny that. I cannot deny it. It is expensive. $1,800 US. That's before tax. And I think that is, as far as I'm aware, just the package for the Pimax Super or the Crystal Super itself, not including the Airlink package. Now, maybe that will change. Now, here's my ticker on this. The base Crystal, as you guys can see, is $15.99. Now, I will say this. Pimax is pretty consistent about running sales and things like that, so the price usually drops $200 to $300 at multiple times throughout the year. So I'll give them that. I will also say that being a Crystal owner, okay, and I am fully admitting that, once again, the Crystal was given to me, okay? It was provided to me for content, my thoughts, blah, blah, blah. The 8KX wasn't. When I bought the 8KX, it was $1,200, okay? So I got it. I've felt the pinch. But I will say this. The features of the Crystal Super, in my opinion, and the market being what it is, and the cost of everything right now, I actually think it's a pretty darn fair price. It is expensive. I am not saying it's not expensive, but I do believe that it is fair. Now, you guys are welcome to comment down below. I know there's always going to be someone who disagrees, and that's totally fine. Finance and financial obligation and payment is definitely a person-to-person basis, and everybody's welcome to their opinion. I will respect those opinions. I'm not going to shoot anybody down. But with that being said, I would absolutely drop it. If I have not, just so you guys know, I do not know if I am receiving a Crystal Super or not. I am hoping, I am absolutely hoping that I get one. I am hoping that I get a chance to review it. If not, I will be buying it. I absolutely will purchase it if I don't get one. All the features are on the mark for me. And for me, all those features are worth the dollar per value. And that's how I base anything. What is the dollar per return, right? What's the value in that kind of expenditure? Am I going to get $1,800 worth of enjoyment from all the features and all of its capabilities out of that headset? And I think I will. I truly do. Okay. So with that in mind, though, they didn't forget about everybody. There is a significantly cheaper option that Pimax is also releasing that is over half the price. And that is the Crystal Light. Stick around. All right, so now we're into the Crystal Light. And I'm going to start out this time with talking about the price. Again, we saw on the previous slide that the Crystal is $15.99. We saw that the Crystal Super is $17.99. This thing is $6.99. So $700. VR is still affordable. And it has all the same features, basically, that the Crystal today does. So let's get into it. 2880 by 2880 per eye. Again, that is the current gen crystal. Same thing, 35 ppd. So again, you're not going to get that high fidelity that you're getting with the Crystal Super, but again, the resolution is 1,000 pixels reduced back to what the standard crystal is. Still get the 6 degrees of freedom, still have your integrated audio, still have the lighthouse capability on the faceplate, and still have the inside-out tracking. Still have the PCVR optimized processor. Again, this is PCVR only for the Crystal Lite. This is not the standalone. Okay. And then we have the, still got a massive field of view, a very good sweet spot. Again, I'm not going to dim that one down too much. Not going to be as big as the Crystal Super because we're back to the same resolution that we see in the standard Crystal. So, and I will tell you though, that if you have not used the Crystal as it is today, it does have a pretty damn good sweet spot. It really does. Still boasting the microphone with the 2X sound system, local dimming with or without. That is a feature that is an optional option based on the lenses that you pick, if my understanding is correct. And then optional upscaling technology with fixed foveated rendering. For those of you who don't know what fixed foveated rendering basically says, all right, if this is my sweet spot, okay, I want everything in this circle to be rendered at maximum resolution. So the 2880 by 2880, right? And then I want everything outside of that, maybe like everything that's going to be like out in this range, okay, to be rendered at a less quality. And what that will do is it boosts performance. It gives you, you get a little bit distortion around the edges that absolutely can be seen in VR if you're looking for it. It is more noticeable in like recordings. If you are recording yourself on VR using like the OpenXR mirror with OBS, you can see the fixed foveated rendering around the edges, flickers and everything around the edges. You can see some of it inside the headset, but for the most part, you really, in my opinion, you really don't notice the fixed foveated rendering. If you're looking for it, just like I felt with the wide field of view lenses on the Crystal, if you're looking for the binocular overlap, if you are looking for the distorted edges, you will see it, okay? But if you're focusing on what you should be, which is what's in front of your eyes, and that's the whole point of the sweet spot, you after a few minutes of flying, driving, etc., you don't really notice it. So if that gives you any kind of comfort, and again, my personal opinion, feel free to challenge that as you will. But at $700 US, you guys, that is a bang. And again, PC VR only, which means the battery pack does not exist. So you don't have to worry about the battery pack anymore. Again, as I mentioned a minute ago, the power completely comes from the display port. So you don't have to worry about battery packs. You don't have to worry about USB cables. It's all coming directly from the GPU, which in my opinion is a phenomenal upgrade in itself. So you got some really amazing options. All right, so I turned my big pop ahead off for this one so that way you guys can read all this clearly. So here is a breakdown between the Pimax Crystal as it is today and the Crystal Lite. So you've got, a lot of them are the same. I'm going to sort of just let you guys pause it and take a look at it, and we'll talk about some of the things that are available. And the Crystal as it is today, you get the 5-dot calibration with the 120 hertz eye tracking, no eye tracking with the Crystal Lite. You get the dynamic foveated rendering and fixed rendering if you choose with the Crystal, fixed 2.0 with the Crystal Lite. Let's see here. I'm just looking for things. Oh, the lenses are interchangeable on the Crystal. They are not on the Lite. The chipset is better on the Crystal. Internal storage on the Crystal, you get the 256 gigabytes of storage. But again, remember, that is because the Crystal can be, as the next line says, PC VR or standalone VR, which is the whole point of that Airlink that we were talking about at the beginning of the video that I am still very excited about, by the way. And then finally, you have the different power supply options. Now, the thing with the Crystal is compatible with the 60G Airlink. There it is. That's what it was made for. And part of the 12K trade-in program. The Crystal is, the Lite is not. But other than that, guys, they are pretty identical. So look at the features that you lose with the Crystal and compared to the Crystal Lite. And ask yourself if you're willing to spend $700 less. Or we'll see here. It'd be what? Sorry, that's $900 less for a VR headset of the same basic quality. So they've really done a fantastic job here. And finally, living up to its name, the Crystal Lite is significantly lighter. as it doesn't have any fans, no IPD monitors, no heat sinks, no DisplayPort extension cords, no interchangeable lenses, no eye tracking. So significantly less hardware required within inside of it. And then the back of it is lighter 200, or excuse me, sorry. It's completely lighter 310 grams. The rear of it is lighter 60 grams. The front of it is lighter 250 grams because you have in the rear of it, no battery compartment, no top strap power cable. So it's going to be lighter. And if you are a PC VR user only, this is, and you don't care about all those other features. I will say, even for me, I don't really use the eye tracking. It's cool. It works. It absolutely works. But I don't really use it. I find myself turning it off most days just because I don't. The one thing that I did was I just recently had an eye exam, and I got my IPD from the doctor, from my optometrist, and just hard set that into the Pimax software. So I don't even worry about the auto IPD, which of course the crystals all still have as the auto IPD, except for the Crystal Light. The Crystal Light will not, because it doesn't have eye tracking. So Crystal and Crystal Super still both have the auto IPD. This one doesn't. But I mean, you can figure that out, just like we did in the old days with the original Rift. You know, we figured out how to find the sweet spot. Okay. So finally, in wrap up, guys, I am super excited for two major things. I am super excited for the Crystal Super, and I'm just as excited for the Airlink. The Airlink, I think, is going to be a ton of fun, regardless of what your play style is. Now, there is games, for example, that I would play in standalone VR if I could use my PC as the source. An example of that would actually be Beat Saber. Another one would be, but the big one would be like Saints and Sinners. The Walking Dead. Really fun game if you guys haven't tried it yet. Really fun game as long as you don't mind zombies and crap like that. And it's funny too, because I'm not usually a zombie kind of person, but I really enjoy that game. Digressed. But a big shout out to my friends over at Pimax. I think you guys have knocked this one out of the damn park. I think you have. You have literally grabbed something for everybody. I think the Crystal Light is an incredible option for people who want the fidelity that the Crystal offers, the lenses that the Crystal offers, and just the overall features that came with the Crystal, for the most part, with some exceptions, obviously. We just talked about those. But at a very reasonable price point. You know, people who want to experience the Pimax VR environment without breaking the bank to do it. The Crystal Super, the Super and the Airlink, I'm blown away by. I think the Airlink is an incredible piece of technology, an incredible idea to go a dongle route and to be able to create that direct network connection between the two pieces at 60 gigahertz is a big deal. That's going to be super fast. That's going to be some great latency or reduction in latency, and I think it's going to provide a pretty awesome wireless experience for those who are interested in that. And then finally, obviously, the Super, we don't even need to talk about. The Super, I think, is going to shatter everything else on the market. I think it really is, especially when we start seeing that mixed reality faceplate. So, again, to Pimax and the team, congratulations, you guys. I think you guys are on a very, very good track. I think we've been waiting for something like this that really seems to hit all the marks. And if one doesn't, maybe the other one will. So, congratulations to you guys on that. I think it's going to be a great year for you guys. To everyone else, let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found this useful, and I hope you're just as stoked as I am. Don't forget, Flight Sim Expo 2024, June 21st to the 23rd. I believe Pimax is also going to be there if you guys want to ask them questions directly. That'll be a great time to do so. And I will definitely be there. If you guys are interested in going and haven't signed up yet, use the link down in the description below. If you guys are interested in purchasing or reserving any of the Pimax stuff that you guys have seen today in the video, make sure you guys use that link down below as well, as it'll help you out. Until next time, guys, see you in the next one.